Take questions for Coach around the room.
Big crowd.
First, yeah. Late arriving. Go ahead, right here in the front.
This seems like maybe the most emotional, maybe we could say, that we've seen out of Andrew Wiggins. You know, usually he's pretty straightforward guy, but he's like staring down guys more, being more expressive on the court. How much do you guys feed off of that energy that he's kind of providing?
Yeah, I mean he's a very mild-mannered guy, but he's taken a leap in these playoffs in terms of his impact on the game defensively on the glass. You saw it the other night. I mean, 16 rebounds, and I think because the games are obviously so meaningful, there's more emotion from him and from everybody. So the biggest thing is he's a two-way player. You got to have two-way guys to make it this far and to succeed, and he has just grown by leaps and bounds over the last couple of years, and it's really fun to watch that growth.
Back
Hey,
left.
Coach. Colin Ward-Henninger, CBS Sports. You always talk about, well, not just you, your whole team, talk about coming out, having to play with force, having to have the right energy. You did a better job with that in Game 2 and Game 4 than you did in the other games. I'm curious, as a coach, early in the game, what are the indicators that you look for to see that you're playing with that necessary force?
Yeah, boxing out is one of them. Ball pressure, defensively, rotations. You can just tell, are you a step early or a step late? And I think that's pretty much a common theme throughout the playoffs in every matchup. I mentioned, watching the Miami-Boston series, it was like almost automatic, whichever team lost came back and punched the other team in the mouth the next game, and it kept going back and forth. And I just think that, especially as you get deeper in the playoffs, teams are so evenly matched, and the games are physical and intense. Even the slightest edge in terms of that force and energy makes a big difference.
And here in front.
Hey, Steve, tomorrow is the 3-year anniversary of your guys' elimination against Toronto and also of Klay's ACL injury. And I'm wondering if you could just remember your emotions that night, not only about being eliminated, but also, the devastating injury and just the perspective. Here we are 3 years later and you've got a Game 5 on the same day.
Yeah, that seems like a long time ago. It was a really strange time for me because I obviously was just devastated for Klay coming on the heels of Kevin's injury. It just felt like we got wiped out just in back-to-back games, and we were already really emotionally tired at that point from the 5-year run. And I also felt this immense pride in our guys' effort and, almost sending that series back to Toronto to a Game 7. So there were all these emotions, but the overriding factors were the injuries to Klay and Kevin. It was just devastating and really hard to see them suffering. And but yeah, that was a long time ago. Good to be back here.
Joe, second row.
So you made a lineup change the other night. Did you see what you wanted out of Otto? And Looney seemed to dominate, coming off the bench. So is this something you stick with?
I'm not going to give that away. I don't like to talk about starting lineups before games. So, part of this series for us and part of the whole playoffs, frankly, has been trying to figure out rotations. We didn't have our whole team together until the Game 1 of the Denver series. And then Gary got hurt. Andre got hurt. And so it feels like almost every series we have had to search a little bit for combinations. and for substitution patterns. And so I'll leave it at that. But yeah, it's very different from teams we had in the past where there might have been one decision to make. Are we going to play JaVale McGee or Zaza Pachulia? But the kind of the core the big minutes were going to be played by the same guys. This feels a little bit different this year. There's been a little bit more mixing and matching, and really proud of the group, everybody, for staying ready and staying prepared and not allowing that sort of change and alterations from game to game to bother them.
Mark in the back.
Hey, Steve. I was wondering, through the course of the day-to-day with Steph, what jumps out to you with what he does with his conditioning work that enables him to always be in tip-top shape?
Just the consistency of his routine. It's like a metronome. I mean, every day it's the exact same thing. He's in the training room, he's in the weight room, he's on the court. And there's, it's clockwork, but there's also a sense of joy and energy within that work. He enjoys it so much. He loves the process. And I think that's one of the things that ties all great athletes together. Like, I'm talking about the superstar athletes, Roger Federer's of the world. There's, Steph Curry's of the world. There's a routine that is not only super disciplined, but it's really enjoyed each day. There's a passion that comes with it, and that's what sustains it over time. And when you love something like those guys do, you work at it, you get better, and you just keep going. I might have told you this before, but we actually met Federer a few years ago in China when we played in Shanghai. And he came and spoke to our locker room. And Draymond asked him, he said, "How have you been doing this for 20 years?" And his answer was just simple yet profound. He said, I love my daily ritual. He said, I get up and make my kids breakfast, drop them off at school, and go train. And I've figured out the right training methods to keep me in the best position. At my age. I love competing. He said, but every single day I put my head on the pillow at the end of the day, and I just think, man, what a great day. And so I think of Steph a lot when I think of that story from Roger Federer. It's very, very similar, just sort of zest for life and just joy for the process.
Tim over here on the right.
Steve, I know you don't want to talk about the specifics of Mike Brown and Kenny Atkinson leaving, but has there been any worry of sort of distraction on the staff leading into this, obviously with these huge games coming up? And secondly, knowing that you have coaches vacancies, but yet you have coaches who always get promoted, you think it's going to be pretty, not easy, but pretty, you're going to have tons of answers to be able to fill those spots with guys applying?
Honestly, the answer is we've barely given it any thought just because of the business at hand, and we know that in a week or so we can get to all that. I won't comment on anything until the teams involved are going to make comments, and so I guess we can have that discussion after the series is over. I'm sorry?
Has there been any disturbance to the process of putting the game plans together, studying?
No. Yeah, there's the guys are. We're in the finals, so it's everybody's just locked in, and we'll deal with that when we get to it.
Jeff in the center.
Hey, Steve.
Hi, Jeff.
How well do you know Brad Stevens, if at all, or a relationship that may exist? And he did the opposite of you, coaching to the front office. And what lifestyle differences are there between the two jobs that lifestyle specifically might be more palatable than the other?
I know Brad pretty well. We actually connected when I was in broadcasting, and he was at Butler. And we had lunch. He wanted to pick my brain about the NBA. I wanted to pick his brain about coaching. I was thinking about getting into coaching, and I had done a couple of Butler games for CBS, and so we've built a relationship over the years. Just great respect for him, and he was an amazing coach, and I think he's done a phenomenal job as GM. The moves he made this year, adding Horford and Derrick White, brilliant. So yeah, he's somebody I think who has figured out what he wants at this stage in his life, and that's what we all have to figure out in this business. I was able to hold off on coaching until my kids were pretty much done with high school, and that's the way I wanted it. And I think he was sort of the opposite. While he was coaching, his kids were pretty young, and I know he's got a lot more time with them now, which is important for him. So you just have to figure out your own existence and what you want within that, and I think he's done a good job of that.
Again, in the back.
Steve, when you look at the video of the previous games, how do you feel about the quality of shots you guys are getting, especially in the half court?
A lot of good ones and some bad ones, and that's kind of what we spend when we're go through our offensive stuff and our adjustments. We're trying to create more good ones, but we had a lot of good looks the other night. I saw the stat, I can't remember what it was, but on our uncontested threes, we actually didn't shoot the ball that well, but we got a lot of them, and that was a good sign. But there's some things we can do better for sure, and to try to create open looks.
The last two, Janie, and then over here, Anthony.
Hi, Steve. I know Draymond doesn't typically need any motivating necessarily, but have you challenged him in any way ahead of this next game? Just anything that,
Nope.
No.
No,
Yep.
Draymond's Draymond. He's gonna bring it every night, and I think the thing that maybe got lost the other night is how good he was, down the stretch, and he ends up the game with 4 steals. He was brilliant defensively. He did what we needed to do to win the game. Everybody's locked in on his scoring. Scoring has always been kind of the last thing that we need from him. We need his defense, his energy, his force, his competitiveness, and down the stretch of the game, he made huge plays at both ends.
Anthony, last one.
Along those lines, though, on the offensive end with him, I mean, this is obviously a difficult matchup, the shot blocking, the length, how they're playing him. What ideally do you need from him offensively better?
Well, there's some details, things that we've seen on tape that we feel like we can do, and obviously not gonna say them here, but I think there's an awareness and a respect for their defense, just like Memphis, with all the shot blocking Memphis had. There's a similar theme in that, we can't play in a crowd, and this is as a 5-man unit. We've got to figure out what that means. How do we create spacing, and where do we need to be? Where does each guy need to be in order to thwart, some of that shot blocking and congestion in the paint?
Thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you.
Hey, Clay. Tomorrow is the 3-year anniversary of Game 6 against Toronto, your ACL injury elimination. I'm just wondering if you can offer a little perspective on what that day was like for you, and to be here 3 years later in a critical Game 5 and playing, at a high level again.
Well, there's a lot of emotions that day. We came real close to having another opportunity to three-peat, which hasn't been done since Shaq and Kobe. And, when I hurt my knee, it was kind of uncharted territory for me because I had been able to be consistently present in the lineup my whole career. so I had to kind of realign my whole train of thought with the months coming up. It was just I knew I had a lot of training ahead, and I knew it was actually hard because I didn't really get a break. Usually after such a long season, you get a nice summer break, but I had to go straight into rehab, and it was kind of like a long cycle after that, a couple years, and now to be here again, I wouldn't change anything. You know, I'm very grateful, and everything I did from that point led to this, so I would not change a thing.
Over to your left.
Hi, Clay. Your team talks a lot about playing with necessary force. Some games is better than others. I'm curious, as a player, early in the game, how do you know if you're playing with that right force, and if not, what do you do to kind of correct it?
Yeah, you can just, to correct it, that's what the coaching staff is for. They let you know in a very emphatic way. And how do you know? Well, usually when, it's hard to know until you watch the film after, but a good indicator when you're out there is just not letting them get layups or easy wide open looks in the beginning, but making them work to score. That usually means that we're locked in.
Davide in the center.
Clay, hi, Davide Chinellato with. Hi, Clay, Davide Chinellato with Gazzetta.
Dang.
Davide Chinellato with Gazzetta in Italy. This is your sixth straight finals, or 6 in 8 years, depending on how you count it. How much is this routine for you, and how much is, I'm at the finals and playing for a championship?
Man, it seems routine, but I just know how special this is. I'm trying to just be present in everything I do during this time, even this interview, and not look ahead, not even look ahead to tomorrow, but just enjoy this day before the big one tomorrow. And I mean, the NBA Finals is such a cool thing to be a part of. I remember being in Istanbul, Turkey in 2013, doing some stuff in the NBA and waking up real early just to watch it, 3, 4 in the morning. So to realize that these games are broadcast worldwide just reminds you how special it really is. I know when my dad played back in the day, the NBA was not as global. So to be here now and talking to you from Italy or a reporter from China or somebody from Brazil, it's special.
Monty in the back.
Clay, everybody remembers, going back to Annie's question, how after you got your knee injured your knee, you were in the hallway. It looked like you were trying to figure out a way to will yourself back onto the court, and you wanted to keep playing. What was going through your mind, and how was it that you finally realized that, okay, this is not going to work, you can't get back out there?
Well, I never had such a severe injury, so I didn't think it was that serious. I thought I might have sprained something in my knee, but, when you're in the championship and you're playing in front of our fans, your adrenaline is so high that you kind of disregard anything that makes sense. And, running around on a torn ACL doesn't make very good sense. And I just thought, I don't want to leave these points on the board, man. This is the finals. I'm going to go get this 30 ball. And then on top of that, I went to the back and they did a little test, and they came out with the conclusion that I should probably put some crutches on. And wow, what a time, 3 years ago. Wow, just goes by fast.
Vince.
Clay, Vince Goodwill, Yahoo Sports. In the aftermath of Game 4 on social media, there was a lot of Steph praise from Dwayne Wade and LeBron James, and it seems like that's kind of, they've grown to respect him more or admire him more. Have you seen that as far as maybe from your peers over the past, 4 or 5 years, as opposed to when you guys first really got going, that there's a real admiration for what you guys do?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, that we're still here. I think that we're knocking on the door of another championship. I think that hopefully, hopefully that gains respect amongst the greats who played, so they know how hard it is to get here year after year. It takes a great toll on your body and even your mind. It takes a lot of mental fortitude to stay hungry and want more and more after so much success. And Steph is the embodiment of that. The man is never satisfied. He just continues to mesmerize the world with his talent.
Klay, along those lines, I was going to ask you, what did you learn watching Steph during your time rehabbing, and maybe other things you've learned from being back alongside him now that, after having that perspective and just how amazing he is year after year?
I learned that he's one of the greatest to ever play, and I learned that he can do anything with the basketball in his hands, especially when it pertains to shooting the ball.
Right here.
Klay, kind of a two-parter. First off, did you know or make the connection that tomorrow would be the 3-year anniversary before Ann asked that question?
No, I did not.
Do you anticipate you'll take maybe a special? You talked about really savoring this entire experience being present, but will you take a special moment just to appreciate how far you've come over these last 3 years and how hard it's been for you?
Maybe for a second, but then when I step on that court, I want to win. Any means necessary. I don't care how ugly or pretty it is. Let's just win, protect our home court. I'm not going to sing Kumbaya or anything. I just want to friggin' win.
Thank you, Klay.
No problem.
First question right here, Ann.
Tomorrow is the 3-year anniversary of your elimination from the Toronto series in Game 6 and Klay getting injured. I'm wondering if you can just remember your emotions on that day. I just watched a video of you slamming that ball down when Klay went down and squatting and, looking very pensive. Your emotions, and then also some perspective of 3 years later, here you are back in a critical Game 5.
Yeah, it was mixed emotions all the way around. I had Katie's injury a couple days before, Klay going down, us trying to just find a way to stay alive. It was the end of an era at Oracle as well, so it's a lot going on. I don't really. It's hard to pick out exactly what you were feeling because it was all kind of mixed together. But we lost the game. Klay goes down. He's probably gonna be out for a while. You're getting ready for the summer, trying to regroup and figure out what's gonna happen next year and all that. And I think it's 3 years ago, and all that we've been through, all that Klay's been through, personally since that time, and to be back here, it adds to the sense of gratitude of being back on the stage. And that chapter will always be part of our journey for sure. Something we probably talk about for a very long time. And hopefully we can get this job done and pay homage to that 3-year journey, actually leading to something truly special.
Ron?
Ron Krajcik, San Francisco Chronicle. Rory's up too, in case you were wondering. I'm sure.
I was wondering. Thank you very much.
I know it's my job. As much defensive attention and physicality as you've faced throughout the playoffs and in this series, how much more or what different do you expect tomorrow night, given the way you played Friday?
I don't know, because every team's built different. Every team has a certain way of doing things that you've perfected or tried to perfect over the course of a season. They have a certain defensive identity that has been successful for them. You obviously understand in a series, adjustments can happen on the fly in between games. You got to be ready to adapt. And I think I'll be ready for that. We will be ready for that, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, for us to be successful and win 2 more games, it comes down to the way that we defend, the way that we bring intensity, especially to start games, understanding how they respond after losses. That was one of the big points in the series. 2 great teams. They know how to respond. They know how to win in other people's buildings. We've shown that. They've shown that. And we have to be ready for that response and hopefully, throw the first punch tomorrow. Whatever adjustment that means is going to be a part of it, but it's secondary to just the effort and intensity and physicality that we need to have, knowing that's their calling card. That's how they, try to force success when they're coming off a loss.
Tim?
Steph, I think Klay's leading you guys in minutes played in the playoffs. He's way up there. You're second on the team. You're way up there on the list of most playoff minutes. You're the old guy.
He used to be a 6-man, though.
Yeah. Jeez. Wow. Now you've thrown me off. No, you're coming off. You had the foot thing. You guys are the old guys, yet you seem you might be getting stronger. Do you have a sense of pride in that? And what might it mean, like how long this window is going to be open?
We've talked about that. We feel like I've said it plenty of times. We have a lot left in the tank in terms of what we can do out there on the floor. And they bring up the age thing. It's something to talk about, but it doesn't really reflect how we approach this playoff journey and our confidence in what we can do going forward. But that doesn't happen by accident. It's just the work that you put into it. Klay, especially the fact that he was on a minutes restriction for like a month, and slowly got to ramp it up. Every couple of weeks leading up to the playoffs, and I think he was so proud of himself that when he first, I think, eclipsed 40 minutes in a regular season game one time. Just the pride of, like, he's talked about it, like a year ago he wasn't even running. So it speaks to just how much this matters, how important we know the work that goes on behind the scenes is to being ready for whatever happens out there in the games that matter. So we're obviously only worried about right now, but we definitely feel like we have a lot left in the tank.
Anthony?
Yeah, 2 questions. One quick one. Just how does the foot feel?
Great.
Any treatment or anything you've needed? Or
always, but yeah.
And then on the Draymond, this is obviously a challenge for him offensively in the series with their length, the way they're playing. What is the key to, I guess, thriving better offensively when he's on the floor?
It comes down to understanding that we have our certain pep plays and actions that we have done for years and years and years. They've scouted it. They have a certain approach and personnel that's trying to take those away. And some of our bread and butter plays, but a lot of it is just being a lot more organized on our spacing and our force on pick and rolls, on cuts and stuff like that, so that we can just get everybody in the right spots, and whether they want to shade, off a certain guy or try to clog things up, we have a counter to all of that. And I think he is going to do an amazing job of adapting and figuring out where he can find his angles, his ways to impact on the offensive end, and that'll again feed off of the way he impacts the game on the defensive end every game. So usually the high IQ guys figure it out, and he's at the top of that list when it comes to understanding the game of basketball.
On your left, second row.
Hey, Steph, Alex Espinoza with 95.7 The Game. You're 3-0 with those purple shoes. Is there anything to that? Or are you going to bring them back out again at some point?
I did not even know that. Yeah. So I appreciate you. I don't know if that messes with the juju on there, if I'm aware of the record. So now I got a lot of different colors, so we'll see. See what happens. God, I got me thinking now, too.
Adam, next.
Steph, the U.S. Open's obviously in Boston this week. You have obviously much bigger priorities, but do you like try to squeeze in part of the practice round Wednesday? Do you have like golfers hitting you up for tickets? Do you just watch it on Thursday and chill? Or?
I got a couple friends on the tour that'll probably hit me up between now and next week if they get the early tee time, the early late on Thursday. We'll see. Or Thursday, Friday, we'll see. But I'm not going out there. It's obviously, all my attention's on rest and recovery and getting ready. I'll pop in front of the TV and make sure I watch as much of it as possible, though.
Joe?
Could you forward those tickets our way?
Say what?
Forward those tickets our way.
Oh, absolutely. I've never been to the Country Club of Brookline, so you can send me some pictures if you get out there.
What's when you have a game like you had on Friday? What's that like to watch the film of it?
I mean, I don't know. It's kind of. I mean, it's cool because when you watch film, there's a lot of different emotions because you usually know the outcome of the game, and so whether you play well individually or not, you always know what happens at the end. It's like watching the end of a movie. It's always nice to know that the movie turns out great at the end. But I think it's more so just the balance of watching what worked and trying to understand those patterns so that you can repeat that for the next game, maybe anticipate some adjustments that might happen and try to slow it down and try to be one step ahead of that. In the meantime, I'm also watching a lot of different reactions in the crowd and on the bench and stuff like that, too. That's always some good entertainment.
Back right.
Steve was just comparing you to Roger Federer in terms of how the greats do things, and he was.
I got to get a list of all the people he's compared. Tim Duncan, Roger Federer, who added to the list. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Today it was Roger. And he was saying, especially in terms of, he said that you guys met him a few years ago in China. And how you find that joy in the daily routine, the work you put in, the discipline. So in your perspective, how is that to finding that joy and that passion and that work that you put in every day to sustain the highest level for a long period of time?
It goes back to just how I started in the game back when I was playing AAU back in the day. I love to work. You kind of get lost in the sessions you have on the court in practice, in the weight room, wherever it is, because you know it's going to lead to you being as prepared as possible for those games. Try to have as much fun as possible. The days that you want to get up and do the work, the days that you don't, days you're tired, all that type of stuff. But it's all built on just my approach, I think, from the time I started, and just trying to carry that every year for as long as I can. And win, lose, whatever it is, no matter how you play, you have to keep coming back to the well to keep sharpening the toolkit and find ways to evolve your game. That is the hardest part of what we do. I mean, going out there on the floor, everything's more reactive, and you're kind of just living in the competition. But the hardest part of what we do is the grind of the year-long prep that it takes to be great at this level.
Davide and Vince, last two.
Hey, Steph, Davide Chinellato with Gazzetta in Italy. You're playing in your 6th finals in 8 years. How much has it become routine for you, and how much is, wow, I'm playing for a championship again?
You understand the routine of it and the ebbs and flows of game days, off days, media days, travel days, especially how to keep your body prepared on those long east to west coast flights and all that. So that helps with just the experience. Every task is different though when you get out there, because even when we played Cleveland 4 times, it's a different team every year that you had to kind of prepare against. And that's just part of it, and I love every experience at this stage, because there's so much attention on what we do. You understand the whole world's watching you when you're out there on the court, and you're obviously keeping in mind what you're playing for and be the last team standing. So I love everything about it.
Vince?
Steph, during Game 4, you couldn't see it because you were playing, but Dwayne Wade and LeBron James had back and forth praising you throughout the course of the game, and I think Dwayne said something after it. saying that they got to make room for you on the Mount Rushmore. So when you see that, if you see that, are you amused? Are you surprised? Do you roll your eyes? Like, what is your reaction when you hear stuff like that or see it?
Any player will tell you when you get respect and praise from your colleagues and the guys that have been on the stage and know what this is about, know how hard it is to be at this level and do what we do. That means the world. You obviously want everybody to appreciate what you do and all that, but it hits different when there's people that you looked up to once upon a time, when they were, having their first and second experiences, and you're watching them like, I wonder what that's like, and then you have some battles, and for them to, go out of their way and speak about your impact on the game and all that type of stuff, it means the world, for sure. Because it takes, great to recognize what it takes to do what we do, for sure.
Thank you, Steph. Mark, back right.
Mark Murphy, Boston Herald. Ime, how is Rob recovered, and did he ever talk to you about it? Looked like he tweaked his knee pretty good in the game the other night. Did he ever talk to you guys about that?
Yes, he is. He mentioned it. He did not do a specific thing, so doesn't know when it happened. He just sprinted up and down one time after one possession, and it was bothering him a little bit, and that's why he asked to come out. So not a specific incident. We watched the film, and nothing stood out there, and obviously led to the blow-by with Curry where he couldn't move great on that possession. But doing better, the day off, the rest equal with today and tomorrow, and optimistic it'll be good to go, but we'll test it before the game as usual.
You've stayed in some variation of drop coverage pretty much for the most part against Steph. With your bigs, are they supposed to be reading like what spot on the floor they're supposed to be just because it's that spot on the floor? Or do you want them to read where the screen level is and react to that more so?
A little bit of both. We want them above three-point line, at three-point line at the lowest. We're leaving it up to our guards. A lot of responsibility where they want to pick him up in pressure and mix up his pickup point. Understanding they can mix some unders that have been quite successful against him if it's high enough. If not, force him in and rear view contest and get the onus on those guys more than anything. Their bigs aren't really getting out quick rolling, so we can show a crowd there. And they're really trying to set the screens and free them up as much as possible, more so than rolling, so our bigs don't have to worry about dropping.
Joe?
Marcus seemed to fall out of the sky onto his back, I think, in the fourth quarter. I'm just checking to see if he's okay. And then do you feel like you need more out of Tatum?
With the Marcus play, I think you're referring to the Jaylon transition where he got the basket and Marcus got the free throw, put us up 5. He got pushed and they called the foul, and he's okay though. Hasn't mentioned anything and played the rest of the game as far as that. With Jayson, it's sometimes you equate missing shots to playing poorly. What we've seen is he's had some really good looks, especially in game 1, and we knew if he got those same looks throughout the series, he'd be successful. They are trying to take him out and guard him with 2 at times, and don't want to give him specific matchups, and at times he has to be the playmaker. And so in the 2 wins, he's had 13 and 9 assists, and he's getting 11 in those, and I think he's down around 5 in the losses. And so don't really equate the numbers of how he's shooting, more so the result of him making the play and making the right read. And so at times it can get frustrating, them trying to take you out, but understanding how it will loosen everything up just by making the right play. And you've seen that at times with him hitting Derrick and Marcus and our bigs in the pocket and having the numbers behind to get some really easy baskets. And so take your spots to be aggressive when you have the matchup you like. Understand that they're going to guard you a certain way and make the right read, which he has in the 2 wins.
On your left, Jay?
You said you don't really look at the shooting percentages with Jayson, but he's shooting 27.5% from inside the arc. How much do you guys need to do to set him up in better situations? What does he need to do to finish better on those opportunities?
I'd say some stronger finishes. As I mentioned, at times looking for fouls. When he plays off 2 and draws the contact, he's finished well. The other part is inside the 3, they are really crowding and trying to take him away. So we want him, when he gets a cross match, to pop to space or roll in the pocket and try to get an advantage as far as that. So
some of the isolations, elbow things we've done for him, they're really loading up. And even with that, he has to invite that and get guys other shots. And so more spacing than playing at the nail elbow area in this series. And for him, the numbers, I think, over-penetrating at times, but he has done a good job of mixing that and drawing the crowd, which is there every time, and finding a shooter. So it's a balance of both. And then just quite frankly, he's missed some easy ones that he usually makes around the basket, especially with their lack of rim protection at times.
Gary.
Ime, the narrative over the last couple of days is you guys blew your opportunity. The series is over. Golden State with the championships medal is going to put you guys away. How do you emphasize that the series is tied to your guys, but also that you can't have the last fourth quarters that you've had, like you're kind of blowing it? Like, how do you kind of blend that in, the message of you're very much alive, but then this can't happen again?
Yeah, first thing you look at is 2-2, and we obviously put ourselves in the position to, stretch the lead and be up 3-1. But bottom line is we're 2-2, and we earned that as well, not being down 0-2 or 1-2 or whatever the case may be. And so I'm sure they said the same thing about Golden State after we beat them here, and we know it's a long series. And like I said, we've been battle tested in 2 7-game series in Milwaukee and Miami. And so for us, looking at the positives and the things we could have done better. Not playing our best offense overall. I think the narrative gets shifted to Curry and what he's doing, but in our wins and losses, they're scoring the same points. And so a lot has been relying on our offense, to your point, in the fourth quarter. But even throughout the game, we had several opportunities being up 5, 6, 7, and poor offense or turnovers let them back in the game. And so the difference in the game that we stretched the lead was we took advantage of those opportunities. We're solid, and against this team, anytime you run some poor offense, turn the ball over, live ball turnovers, and let them get out, we know how quickly they can get back in the game, and that was the case in Game 4 when we had our chances.
By Manning Sealiness Media, Ime, 2 on Jaylon. Number 1, what do you think has allowed him to be so successful scoring-wise in this series? And number 2, just how can you continue to involve him into the later stretches of games? It feels like he usually does most of his work early, sometimes gets lost in the shuffle late in the fourth quarter.
Well, I mean, they are switching some off-ball stuff, and we get some favorable matchups, but they're not guarding him the same as Jayson. I think they're guarding him more one-on-one, and obviously he's a high-level scorer that can take advantage of that. Putting Green on him on the perimeter a little bit, I think, takes Green out of his comfort zone, and he's one of their best help defenders, so he's had some advantages there where they don't like to switch off ball. And to your point, he's got it going early in the game. It's a balance and a mix. I think ideally we like to have Jayson and Jaylon both rolling at the same time, and so it's a mix of going to the guy that's being aggressive and scoring and getting the others involved as well. And I think that's obviously when we're at our best, if you've seen throughout the year, when they're in their high 20s or 30s together. And so it's a balance of that, but at the same time, our players got to understand we got to put them in position to get them the ball late in game and understand the advantage that they have. And so it works both ways. At times we've been a little stagnant and they're standing around when they can be more aggressive to get the ball, but as well we can put them in some play calls to get the scoring areas as well.
Ron, over here on the right.
Ime, Ron Krajcik from the San Francisco Chronicle. You talked a little earlier about your defense on the screen and roll against Steph. How unique a challenge is it against him, not just because of his range, but because of the way he moves without the ball? Does that make it harder to maybe double or do things you might do against other perimeter players?
I would say, obviously the range extends the floor some, and, some of the shots that he's hitting are only shots that he can hit and have been highly contested, so he's hit a few of those. I think when you look at the overall numbers of him making threes out of our touch, I think it's very low. It's a combination, but it does get him in a rhythm, the fact that he's getting some of those shots off, but then he's moving in transition and relocating, getting some of those looks. So I think he was 3 for 6, 3 for 8 last game from out of touch, which isn't terrible, but he is getting some looks up. The thing he does well, obviously, is once he gets off the ball, the movement, that's different. He doesn't just stop, and they all are hunting shots for him, as you saw when we switched a little bit. So we can mix it up there, be a little bit more physical, mix some unders on him when he's that high, and we've been good as far as that. But the fact that he's such a willing and good playmaker, I think makes it tougher to go after him, as opposed to other guys who don't want to get off the ball. He finds the guys in the pocket, and then obviously that's when Draymond's at his best, making plays for others. So it's a balance of both. And like I said, I think the offense that he's having a successful series offensively, but if we're playing offense the right way, we'd be at 3-1 at least right now.
Brandon and Gary, last two.
Coach Udoka, Brandon Scoopy Robinson, Bally Sports. You talked about Jayson and his playmaking ability. I enjoyed watching it in Game 3. Specifically, I think it's very underrated. What specifically will you look to implement going into Game 5, and why do you, or rather, do you like him in a playmaker role with you guys during as much as he is a scorer?
I like both. We want the total package from him. It's something he's capable of and has really improved on this year. And so for him, it's just picking and choosing spots, when to be aggressive, when to get guys involved, and understanding what they're going to do. And he's seen that throughout the Miami series. Brooklyn went after him early, and even in Milwaukee, they're not going to let him beat them when he's on a roll like that. And so understanding it, welcoming it, and understanding guys rely on him for our offense to click. And so it wasn't just him in Game 3. I think Jaylon had one of his best playmaking games also. And so that carryover and consistency, understanding how they're going to guard you. Some nights you have to loosen them up a little bit, be the bait, and let everybody else involved, and then they'll open up for you in the fourth quarter.
Is the goal with Steph to have him shoot with obviously as many contests, or is it to him to give up the ball to teammates? It seems like he's beating whatever you guys give him, and he's done that for years, obviously, whatever defense, he's seen it all. But what's kind of the game plan with someone who can shoot so well and who can shoot against, taller contests so well?
Yes, we're not really we haven't gone after him much, honestly, like Durant or some of those other teams, and some is due to the personnel he has behind him and the playmakers that he has. For us, we rely on our one-on-one defense, our guys using their length to contest, and then our bigs being up as well. And so it's not as much as us going after him, and he's made some tough shots, no doubt. But I don't think the numbers look like they get skewed when he hits some of the other ones out of transition or miscommunication, as opposed to us in our regular touch defense. And so with us, as I mentioned, if we are playing the right way on the other end, the defense has been fine. They're scoring around 107. Scored 100 in a game, and when we've scored well, we've scored 120 and 116. So our balance has to be better on offense. Continue to make him work on that end, and trust what we're doing on defense, which is allowing him to get some looks off, but kind of contain everybody else.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Say Davide here in the third row. Third row. No, one row up. Davide, put your hand up, please. Thank you.
Hi, Jaylon. Davide Chinellato with Gazzetta in Italy. This is your first time at the finals. How much it has become routine for you being in Game 5, and how much you're still dealing with, I'm at the finals for the first time in my career?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't really got nothing to compare it to, so I kind of just live in the moment, take it one step at a time, try to get myself composed so I can get my teammates and composed and just come out and try to execute the game plan. That's it.
When you left.
By Manning, CLNS Media. Jaylon, I know you talk a lot about just playing basketball, going with the flow, but when it comes to crunch time and, you guys need to get a bucket there, is there an onus that the coaching staff's putting on you to go get the ball? Because it feels like you have a lot of success early in games attacking, being aggressive, and then late in games sometimes getting lost in the shuffle.
Not necessarily. We at times we get a little disorganized and in crunch time and get a little sped up. And at times I do need to take the onus and get us more organized and get us more space and a little bit more composed. And that's a part of my growth as a basketball player and my maturity and things like that. Can't put everything on the coaching staff. We're on the floor, so at times somebody got to be get everybody square, get everybody level-headed, and be a little bit more composed. But we just got to be better as a group overall in those moments and just take our time a little bit and just be a little bit more poised.
Ron over here on the right.
Jaylon, Ron Krejcik from the San Francisco Chronicle. You obviously only play the Warriors twice a year in the regular season. Having played them 4 in a row now, what have you sort of learned about the challenge of containing Steph and the unique sort of challenge he presents?
Yeah, Steph Curry is really good. And if you guys haven't noticed, yeah, he can shoot the ball unbelievably. You know, even watching it, playing against it, and even in the finals, I feel like he's taking it up a notch a little bit. He had a hell of a performance in Game 4, and we got to respond to that. We got to do even more of a better job, and we got to be even more focused on the details because obviously, you know, Steph Curry is a hell of a player.
What can you do, I guess, is the follow-up question to that.
Be more focused, attention to detail. You know, there's no room for error, no room for doubt, and we could be better in that regard.
Jaylon, what's going on?
What's up, boss?
Brother Brandon Scoopy Robinson, Bally Sports. What's the word of the day going into Game 5?
That's a great question. The word of the day, focus. I think, you know, focus is something that, you know, for us has differed from game to game. And it's almost human nature. When our backs is against the wall a little bit, we play with a little bit more focus and determination and intensity. And sometimes when we're a little too comfortable. So, you know, I would like our focus to be, you know, intense. And I would like our focus to be, you know, at a high level coming into Game 5.
Jay, back right.
Ime was kind of suggesting that when you guys have bad offense, it kind of hurts you the other way. How have they punished you for those moments when kind of offensively you aren't right?
They're just a good team, and they take advantage of your mistakes. They look to take advantage of your mistakes. Anytime we make any type of mistake, you could tell their urgency is just they're going to try to come capitalize on it. So we got to do a better job in that. But the Warriors, they've been here before. They're well coached, and they're experienced. So we expect nothing less. We're a young team, new, that's trying to, you know, climb a mountain. We got to do our best to be better in those regards because, you know, when you make mistakes, teams like Golden State, they're going to take advantage.
Gary up front.
Jaylon, do you and Jayson talk about obviously the enormity of this game coming up for your not only the Celtics, your personal legacies, and how you need to respond after the loss, but not trying to put too much pressure on yourself because you just want a ball. Like, how do you balance that?
It's no pressure. It is what it is. We know what we hear. We know where we're at. We know it's the finals. We know the severity of the game, so there's no need to say things that's already understood. Like, we know how important this game is, and we know how the energy that we need to come out with and how we need to set our team up and how we need to make plays and how we need to guard and defend. We know all the ins and outs. So we just got to come and do it and let everybody watch and witness.
Jaylon, Tomer Azari from Clutch Points. Coming into this series, were you of the belief that experience is great, as in getting through these Steph Curry-like explosions, and you're still 2-2, you're not down 3-1, you're not eliminated, like you're only 2-2. Does that experience, like, do you take anything positive out of that?
Yeah, you could take positive out of anything. Obviously, I think we could be in a better position than we're in, but we're not. It's 2-2. Still nothing to hang your head about. A lot of great basketball still in front of us. So you take we take what our mistakes and what we learn from, and you apply it as best you can going forward. I still think we're in a great spot, so I'm excited to see how we respond over the next couple of days. And, I mean, it's exciting. It's the biggest stage in the world, you know, and I'll take our group, our guys, versus anybody. So I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks, Jaylon. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you. Questions for Jayson? Okay, Robert, over here on the second row on the left.
By Manning, CLNS Media. Jason, you and Jaylon have been working on your connection offensively throughout this year, but in crunch time, it feels like sometimes Jaylon gets lost in the shuffle a little bit. He starts games hot, finishes them, kind of getting lost a little bit there. Just you as the playmaker, what kind of things are you looking to get him involved, especially late in games?
Yeah, that's just something that we got to be better as a team, knowing who's on the floor, what we try and take advantage of, and how to put guys in the best position, for them to be the best version of themselves. And then that's something that we just continually talk about, from game to game after we watch film.
Gary?
Jason, the narrative shift after every game, and now it's you guys blew it. Golden State's going to close it out. They got championship medal. How do you kind of understand, obviously, that it's 2-2 and you guys still have a chance, but also kind of take seriously that the stretches in the fourth quarter and the games that you guys have messed off, that really can't happen anymore?
Yeah. It was a tough loss, and we understand that. And I think, we've been here before. Right? It's the third time in a row I feel like we've been here. So we know what it takes. We know what we have to do, and the attention to detail and things like that. And I'm confident. I've been all playoffs, confident in the fact that we'll respond and play better, for majority of the game, tomorrow.
Jason, Cam Inman, San Jose Mercury News. Like you said, you've been here in this building before. How would you describe just the atmosphere of playing here, and how might that impact Game 5?
They got a great crowd, great fan base. Obviously, they've been in this position many a times in the championship, in the finals, as of the last 6-7 years. But it's basketball, and I feel like for whatever reason we've played somewhat better on the road this playoffs than we have at home.
Davide, towards the middle.
Hi, Jason. Davide Chinedato with the Gazzetta in Italy. As you said, you guys have been able to respond to a loss with a win in this playoffs. How much is this mental, and how much are adjustments to the opponent you guys are facing?
Yeah, it's very mental. And I think just, like I said earlier, just the attention to detail, and making the adjustments in game, and just having the awareness and not let things snowball, and not necessarily let it, make the adjustments for next game, after we lose. If we can be better at, making adjustments and figuring things out from quarter to quarter, and things like that. But it's a big test for us tomorrow. It's like a new series, best of 3. Excited for the challenge.
Ron, over here.
Jason, Ron Krejcik from the San Francisco Chronicle. What have you learned playing against Curry these last 4 games? You only face him twice a year. You obviously, everybody knows his shooting range, but what maybe nuances have you learned in the challenge to stop him, and what more can you guys do tomorrow night?
Everybody knows he's a great player, right? One of the greatest, and he's doing what he has to do to, put his team in the best position to win. It's no secret. I knew he was a great player before the series, and after Game 4, I knew he was a great player as well.
Melissa.
Melissa Rowland, Fox Sports. Obviously, your first time in the NBA Finals. I'm curious, as this series has gone on, what's the biggest thing that you've learned about yourself and also about your team?
Honestly, I don't know if I've learned anything differently. Obviously, I know it's the finals, and we know it's at stake. But I think, being in it is hard to kind of process, as, it's different than if I was watching it on TV and all the coverage and things like that. But from my point of view, we got a game tomorrow, and we got practice today, and we got shoot around in the morning to get ready for another game. So it's just trying to stay present and in the moment,
and not, get worried or consumed, I guess, with, everything surrounding the finals and just trying to, win the next game.
We're on your left. Go ahead.
Hello, Jason. I'm Deniz Aksoy from Esport TV Turkey. I would like to ask you, until now, until the game 5, what is the most remarkable moment that you will not forget when you look back?
In the finals? I would just probably say the first media day, the first game. Just the first of everything, I guess, because it's my first time in the finals. So I don't think I'll ever, forget any of these moments, especially the first time that we came to practice and had open practice and things like that.
Jay, back right.
You haven't been shy throughout your career of, sharing your ambitions of being one of the greats. Now in your first finals, how much pressure do you put on yourself to kind of live up to that?
I guess the same amount of pressure I've always had. It's not something that I go to sleep thinking about, wake up. Obviously, I want to win by any means necessary, and I'll do whatever it takes. And that's all that's really I care about right now is winning. Whether you win or you don't win, you guys will debate the rankings or where does that matter, for your legacy and things like that. That's kind of not up to me, but in this moment, just I've said it. I feel like every day I'm just trying to do what I can, to impact winning by all costs.
Last two, Brandon and then Gary.
Jason, Brandon Scoopy Robinson, Valley Sports. I talked to your dad this morning, and he talked about how he's kind of taking a hands-off approach and just critiquing your game during the finals. And I'm curious to know from your perspective, how encouraging overall has your family and your inner circle been during the finals, win or lose?
They've been very supportive, throughout my career. And, I know they're proud of me regardless, and that's how it should be as family. I don't think this is any different. Obviously, they're extremely happy for the position I'm in and my team. But, they've always been super supportive, and, that hasn't changed now.
Gary?
Jason, Ime said you were kind of maybe in game 4, kind of searching for fouls and not getting them, and that maybe been your lack of success at the rim. One, how do you get yourself going? You said you need to be better. How specifically do you need to be better? And how do you, like briefly said, not put too much pressure on yourself because this could be a legacy-defining game for you?
I think one thing I've noticed is playing off 2 feet a lot more. And, Coach said, playing off 1 feet and, trying to look for fouls, hasn't been as working in my favor as much. So, I think playing off 2 feet, attacking angles instead of, trying to initiate the contact and things like that. And it's just, it's a game tomorrow. Looking forward to it. It's 2-2, so not necessarily thinking about what it means for my career, but just what it means for our team and, what we're trying to accomplish right now.
Thanks, Jason. This is it for today. Thank you.
Overall feel of just coming back into this building and how you guys are feeling?
We're excited. In Game 5 of the NBA Finals, got best of 3 for the NBA championship. And this is what you work for. This is what you dream about. So, it's an exciting time, and we got to come out ready to go. And we're going to have a good practice here and be ready to go for tomorrow.
How would you describe just how this crowd treats the Celtics, the opposing team?
They treat us like every other crowd. They're cheering for their team, and they don't like us whenever we do anything. So it is what it is.
Danny Zaxler from S Sports. So, Derek, we're here right now for the Game 5, and the crowd was amazing in TD Garden. But right now, what is the excitement what kind of a level of excitement that you're having as young crew for this very important game?
Yeah, it's extremely exciting. I think we've shown that we are what we're capable of here on the road, and I understand that the crowd's just going to be on another level just because of the situation and everything, and we'll be ready to go.
And then after the Game 4, how was the atmosphere in the locker room? What did Coach Udoka tell you guys?
Yeah, obviously we were disappointed. A game that we felt like we kind of lost down the stretch there that, that we watched the film on today and learned a lot from. And, that's in the past now. We got to focus on the future, and it's going to be a big game coming up.
Anything else for Derrick? Denise?
I have to do this. I have to ask you this question because I'm from Europe. I'm from Turkey. And, you have so many fans in Turkey, in Europe, that they wake up at the midnight and then watch your games. What would you like to tell them, to the NBA Europe fans?
Big shout out to all the fans all over the world. Waking up at crazy hours. They're just huge sports fans. Basketball leagues over there are great as well. So big shout out to them. Hopefully we give you 2 more Celtics wins for you guys.
Anything else? Thanks, Derrick. We got 3 musketeers in here. Questions for Marcus? Jeff, we'll start with you.
Marcus, during the Eastern Conference Finals, I asked you about toughness and where you got some of that. And so when it comes to defensive mentality, what is that mentality that goes into being a great defender? I know there's a skill set involved, but there's also a mentality that not everyone has.
Mentality is you got to keep going. You can't never give up. You know what I'm saying? You can't take breaks. You got to push yourself to the limit. You're playing against some of the greatest players, and you have to have a high motor. You have to keep it going. And for me, I'm just telling myself constantly, no matter how hurt you are, no matter how tired you are, you got to keep going. And that's the mentality you have to be a really good defender, let alone a great one.
Mark?
Hey, Marcus, I was wondering, obviously we know how great of a shooter Steph is, but I was wondering, what's the challenge of having to account for a player that's constantly running around the court, whether he's on or off the ball, and how do you approach that?
Definitely. We all know what he can do outside of, 20 feet, 30 to 35, 40 feet. The dude is special in that regard. And, the way that he's able to affect the game by able to run around and play off the ball and get himself open. And it's just tough on a defender because you can't take a break. The instance you think that he's not doing anything, the play's over for him, and that's when you get beaten. That's when you get burnt, and that's when that mentality comes in. And you got to stay ready. You can't give up. You got to keep going. And so for him, he can affect the game at all levels: passing, playmaking, shooting the ball, scoring the ball. So he got the whole package, and you have to be able to guard every last thing he has. And not many players can do that, Not a lot of people, especially on that defensive end, likes to sit down and play defense. It's not fun. It's not glamorous at all. You're not going to get much of the credit. It's none of that. But you have to be willing to take that challenge and just go do it when you guard him.
Marcus Youngmasuk, ESPN. For defenses as vaunted like you guys, as good as you guys have been, what have these 48 hours been like for you guys after such a big game from Steph Curry? What's the emotions? Are you guys angry? Did you take it personally? What's it like?
It's basketball. It happened. We let it happen, but it happened. We get an opportunity tomorrow to come out and make up for it. And that's all he is. He had a great game. You tip your hat off to him. He's a great player. But it's only one game, and we're on to the next one.
Back to Jeff.
A quick follow-up. You talk about that motor. How did you discover you had it?
Well, for me, it was when I was a little kid, I had a lot of energy, just constantly going, couldn't sit still. And, my mom was just like, she put me in every sport. I played football, I played basketball, I played soccer, I played baseball, a little bit of everything, just to try to, wear me down for that. And then when she realized it's not working and I'm just still going, like the Energizer Bunny, she was like, listen, there's nothing I can do. And from then on, for me, it was just something that I adopted and really took on head on for me. It's what I pride myself on, just being able to keep going.
Anything else? Thanks, Marcus.
Thank you, guys.
Jared, Al, one-on-one.
All right. Can we turn the cameras off then?
Get the exclusive.
All right. So I guess the first thing I'm interested in is the drop on Steph, which everybody's talking about.
The what?
Drop coverage on Steph.
Uh-huh.
And they pull you guys so far out. They're screening anywhere from like 25 to 45 feet, it seems like. When you see them, especially go further out, how are you deciding where you want to drop to? Is that more relative to like where the screen is or the spot on the court you have to get to kind of take away the different angles?
Yeah, the whole thing is really just supporting the guy, the primary defender who's guarding him. So Marcus, Derrick, Peyton, whoever happens to be guarding him at that time, and just be there to support them, to make sure to give them enough time to be able to, to get them back squared. Easier said than done, but we're just there to really just load on them, and there's not really a specific point.
Like there's been some times where you start backpedaling. There's some times where you seem to kind of push them out. Are those that you're trying to mix it up, or is it that you're just trying to like read what's the right way to do it each time?
Yeah, I mean, just kind of reading how the game is going, and I guess trying to give different looks. You can't give the same look every time, so almost keeping them guessing.
I know Ime's always talked about how he wants your defense to kind of just grind out the opponent and you guys win that war of attrition over time. Does staying in that drop coverage instead of you guys switching onto him or blitzing or showing hard, does that help you guys try to maintain energy so you think you might have the advantage late in games?
I don't know. I just think that's, the way that, Coach has wanted us to play. We're the type of team that we have the ability to do different things defensively because I feel like we have the personnel. But to your point right now, we feel like that's what's best for us right now.
Anyone else?
Put a Dan right here.
Hi, Al. Dan Roach from WBZ. Just kind of your thoughts coming out here after a back and forth. You guys are 7-0 after a loss. They're 6-0. Why is it so hard for the team that wins to have that response, and how psyched are you guys to kind of get it done here in Game 5?
Our group is, just very resilient, and I feel like anytime that our backs are against the wall, we feel like we need to respond, and that's the situation that we're facing in right now. Obviously, this is, it's going to be a tough environment here tomorrow, but it's a challenge that we're very excited to take on.
And when you look back on Game 4, you've been at this a long time now. How do you take what Curry did and maybe take that attitude of, guys, hey, this was a once-in-a-generational type of player, and look what he did. We're still right there into the rest of the series here?
Absolutely. Always keeping the perspective and understanding that he had a great game, but also there was a lot of things that we could have done better as a group. And the one thing about our group is, we're learning through this whole process, and we're learning how to win, and we're learning how to be better. And we had a really good film session, and we're expecting to have a much better game tomorrow.
What do you think you need to do better down the stretch and in Game 5 than you did in Game 4?
It's just continuing to play, the way that what got us to that point, and it's really making sure that we have good ball movement on offense and continuing to be solid on the defensive end. I feel like if we do those two things, that puts us in the best position.
Just final thought. I asked Grant this. Have you enjoyed this, or is it just so exhausting trying to win that you haven't had the time? What's it been like for you? Grant said, I look around. The best part is being together as a team. What's it been like for you?
Oh yeah, no. You have to enjoy these moments. I've enjoyed since the first day that we got out here to San Francisco the first time. So really taking it all in. Just enjoying this time with the guys, and making the most of it.
And what's it been like with your family?
It's been great. So also seeing them going through this and being able to be in these positions, it's been a lot of fun for us.
Have you heard from Ortiz and everyone in the Dominican over this run?
Yeah, no, a lot of people over there watching it, supporting. Just people very happy, pulling for the Celtics in Dominican. Very, very Celtic heavy over there, and I can't wait to get out there after the season.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Al.